Okay, we're making focaccia bread, and I start with sauteing the onions, and I do 4 tablespoons of olive oil in the hot skillet with 1 large sweet onion, diced, and just kind of tossing it around here to get the oil distributed through the onions. And I continue to cook and stir this over medium heat until the onions are clear and starting to get a little brown on the edges. Okay, it's been a couple minutes so far. Just thought I'd show you how they're looking. They're starting to get soft, starting to get slightly translucent. Still quite a bit of moisture in the pan. There won't be much moisture left, just a little bit of oil, but we'll keep cooking them. Okay, so a couple more minutes have gone by. They're getting there, almost getting to the point of being translucent, and we'll just keep stirring them here. Probably have another 2 to 4 minutes left on them. This might seem like a lot, but this takes longer than the whole rest of the recipe does, so it's worth it. Alright, 2 more minutes into it, and you'll see they're getting this nice yellowy color, which is partly the sweet onion and partly the olive oil. They're almost there. I think we're going to do 2 more minutes. Alright, so the onions are done. You can see they're starting to turn a little golden on the edges. Especially, you start to see they start sticking to the bottom of the pan a little. Nice and mushy and soft and sweet. Ready for the focaccia bread. So now we'll turn this off, take it off the heat, and let the onions cool while we get the rest of the ingredients ready. And you want this to just be warm when you put it into the bread mixture. If you put it in straight hot like this, it will kill your yeast. Okay, so while the onions are cooling, we'll get the yeast going. So I've got my 1/2 cup of warm water, teaspoon of sugar, and 2 tablespoons of yeast. Give it a good mix up here. Use the whisk to make sure you get all the yeast dissolved into the water and off the edges of the measuring cup. Alright, so now we let this sit for 5 minutes to proof. Okay, so we've got our ingredients ready. The yeast is very ready. I've got 8 cups of flour in my stand mixer with the dough hook. And so we will add in our yeast. And that, I mean, if it overflows a little, it's not a big deal. The top part really is just foam. Alright, so that was the yeast. Now we add 2.5 cups more water, a teaspoon of salt, 4 tablespoons of olive oil, 2 tablespoons of rosemary. I'll go ahead and start that going. And you'll see the onions, they turn this kind of pretty golden color as they sit there and finish absorbing the olive oil. And those just go straight in the pan here, everything else. And they can be warm to room temperature. You just don't want cold or hot because it will mess up the yeast. So we let that get to mix in here. I've got a little bit extra flour here if we need it to add so we get the right consistency. Because mine never comes out the same twice. Sometimes I might overdo the oil or the water or not enough. So it all goes by texture. See, it's pulling together. And what you want is for it to be all in a kind of a ball and pull away from the sides. The sides or the bowl will be almost clean from all the flour being soaked up in the dough. And you don't want the dough sticking to the bowl in the bottom or the sides. As it gets pulls into a ball here, I let my machine go for about 5 minutes to knead it before I put it into a grease bowl. Okay, so we're almost to the end of the kneading time. You need to keep a really close eye on the dough. Make sure it's not sticking anywhere. If you see any sticking, you just want to dust a little bit of flour in and let it soak it up before you add any more so you don't go too far. You want it to be a nice soft dough that's slightly elastic but doesn't stick to your fingers. Okay, so as the dough's finished up kneading here, like I said, you want to see that the dough is not sticking to the bowl. You'll see the edges of the bowl look clean. Okay. You want the dough to be elasticy, kind of pulls back on itself, but it's not sticking to my fingers. So then you take it out and I used most of the 2 cups of flour that I had for extra flour. So like I said, you never know how much you'll need. I usually keep 2 cups handy for just in case. So now I've got my bread bowl. I use my Tupperware with a lid. Put a little bit of olive oil. I shape the dough into a ball. I put the ball top down, roll it around to get it coated in olive oil. And then I flip it over and swish it around the bottom part. Want to make sure that all parts of the dough are covered in olive oil. Very light coating of olive oil, but completely covered to keep the dough from drying out while it's rising. Now we put the lid on and wait about 45 minutes to an hour until the dough is at least double. Alright, so our dough is done rising. So I'll go ahead and I'm actually going to use 2 of these cookie sheets because my recipe makes 4 of those. But I'm going to get one ready for now. And the dough is done. It's starting to poke out the edges here. So it probably was done 10-15 minutes ago, but we're doing other things. So take the dough and divide it into 4 pieces. Alright, and we'll shape each piece into a ball and kind of, you're squishing not all of it, but a lot of the air out. So I put one, another one ready. Alright, so we got all our dough balls ready here. So now, after they've rested for a few minutes, kind of just flatten them out a little bit. You want to leave plenty of room. I use my nice big sheets. If you need to, use a separate sheet for each one because it will still puff out more. And if you want it to cook even, you don't want them to be cooking into each other too much. So, flatten these all out. Oh, you don't want it super flat, about, you know, I don't know, what is that, maybe an inch or so. And, you know, if you want it in a different shape, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's perfectly round. It all tastes the same. So, now I use, for this bread, I like to use my flour sack dish towels. And I just cover it up. And they'll need about a half hour to 45 minutes until it doubles again. Okay, so our dough has been rising for about 40 minutes. You can already see it's nice and puffy. So, anyway, okay, so now I've got my olive oil, some sea salt flakes, some rosemary. That's what I put on top. So you don't want to smash it down all the way. You just kind of want to make some finger holes in the or finger dents in the top here. And you'll see it kind of deflates as you do this, but you don't want to be too rough with it. Hey, no helps. Thank you. And especially if you have fingernails, you got to be careful not to poke them down in. So, now, put the olive oil, and you want to be pretty generous with it. It's what gives it the nice texture on the top and flavor. So then I use a brush. You want to make sure it's all the way down the whole top here. Brush it all around, all the way down. I mean, you know, if some of it gets on the cookie sheet, that's fine. And, you know, go ahead and leave it pooled up in the finger dents. No touch. Harrison.
Can you help me?
No, no helping right now, please, okay? I'm almost done. Hold on. And then you can help with the next ones. Alright. So, I use these sea salt flakes. But you can use whatever sea salt you want. Sometimes when I've been running low or don't happen to have any, I've even used just regular table salt. So it's all very similar taste. I like the texture from the flakes. So. And then some rosemary. Don't need a whole lot of rosemary since there's some in the dough too. But it looks pretty on top. Alright, so now this is ready to go in the oven.